Welcome everyone to where we are putting together solutions for those math and science topics that we are getting problems with. Today, we will be looking at the topic of factorization in mathematics, and in particular, expressions with 4 terms. This is our second video in this mini-series, so feel free to like the video and add comments in the description down below, or post which topic that you may need help in, so we can make a video for you. To fully grasp this part of factorization, we must be able to do 2 things well. Firstly, we should be able to perform operations such as multiplication and division of directed numbers. And secondly, we should be able to factorize 2 and 3 terms. If we are having problems, click on the link above and review this in the part 1 video. Then continue here. Let's now look at factorizing 4 terms. In this first example, the question states A triangle plus B window plus A window plus B triangle. There are no letters or shapes which are the same throughout, so we cannot factorize that out. So we'll now have to look at another method. So step 1, let's rearrange the terms into pairs so that they can be factorized. So if we look, we can rearrange it so we can get A triangle plus B triangle plus A window plus B window. So we can see something that is similar in the first 2 terms and something that is similar in the next 2 terms. So step 2, take one pair at a time and factorize it. So A triangle plus B triangle, they can be written as products, and we can recognize that the triangle is the same throughout, or we can say it is the HCF. Thus, if we factorize that out, we'll be left with A plus B in brackets. This is exactly what we did in the first video where we were factorizing 2 terms. We now similarly do the same thing with the second pair, A window plus B window, which can be written as products, and then the window can be extracted or factorized out, and what is left would be A plus B. Now that we've reached this line, we can see in both cases the brackets are the same. So we can pull out A plus B, and whatever we are left with, the triangle plus the window, will be put into brackets. So now we have 2 sets of brackets with a product that they are multiplying each other. Thus, we have solved the question. Let us now do a second example of factorizing 4 terms. In this case, the question says to completely factorize 5y squared plus 20y plus 3y plus 12. Since we look at the first 2 terms and see that it can be factorized, then step 1, which says to rearrange the terms into pairs, is not needed. So now we proceed to step 2. Take one pair at a time and factorize it. So 5y squared plus 20y. So for those of us who are getting problems, we will do the HCF working on the side. Some of us don't need this and we can skip this piece of working. So 5y squared, we can break it up, will give us 5 times y, and 20y will give us 2 times 2 times 5 times y. 2 2s are 4, 4 5s are 20. So what is similar in both of them? 5 in the first line and the second line, and y in the first line and the second line. Therefore, the HCF is 5y. Now we can rewrite this 5y squared plus 20y into a second line where we write it as 5y times y. Because if we look at the line with 5y squared and we broke it up, when we extracted the HCF, what we were left with is y. And similarly for the second line, when we take out the HCF of 5y, what we are left with, 2 times 2, which is 4. Now, when we look at these 2 brackets, what is same? 5y. So we factorize that out, and everything else is put into brackets, y plus 4. Now we can't proceed any further with this, so we go to the next pair, 3y plus 12. So we can factorize those by finding the HCF first. 3y is equal to 3 times y, and 12 is equal to 2 times 2 times 3. And what is similar in both lines? 3. So the HCF is 3. Therefore, we can rewrite 3y plus 12, and that will give us 3 times what remains on that line? Y. Plus 3 times 2 twos are 4. Now, what is the same in these two brackets? 3 is the same. So we can factorize that out, and we are left with y plus 4. Now, how do we know that we are on the right track? Both of these here have the same brackets, y plus 4. So we can now extract y plus 4, and we are left with 5y plus 3. And we have solved the question. We will now do a final example of factorizing 4 terms. So let's look at the question. 3x squared plus 1x plus 6x plus 2. And as we look at the first pair of terms, we can factorize those. So there's no reason to rearrange. So we move to step 2. We take one pair at a time and factorize it. So the first pair is 3x squared plus 1x, and the HCF there is x. So we can rewrite it x times 3x, or if you wish, you can write it the other way, 3x times x plus 1 times x. And if we factorize out the x, which is the HCF, we are left with 3x plus 1. We cannot proceed any further with this, so we now move to the second pair, 6x plus 2. And what is similar in both of them? 2. So we will write the HCF 2 times 3x plus 2 times 1. We will extract the 2, and we are left with 3x plus 1. And at this stage, we can look to see if we are on the right track, because we should be getting the same brackets in both of them. Now, since the brackets are the same, we write the final line, 3x plus 1, and everything else goes into the second brackets, x plus 2. And we've solved the question. Let's look at example 1 using the area method to solve it. The question repeats A triangle plus B window plus A window plus B triangle. So step 1 says to rearrange the terms into pairs that can factorize. So when we rearrange, as before, it becomes A triangle plus B triangle plus A window plus B window. Now step 2, substitute the terms into the rectangles. Now there's something to remember here, that we have 4 terms, which means that we need 4 rectangles. So with the first rectangle, A triangle, and we know the HCF of the first 2 terms is triangle, then it will be triangle times A will give us A triangle, and with the second it will be B triangle, and we already know one side is triangle, so the other side is B. With the third triangle, it is A window, and we already know A is one side, so the other side must be window. And similarly for the fourth rectangle, it will be B times window, it is B window. Therefore the length and the width of these rectangles is A plus B and triangle plus window. We will now look at example 2 using the area method. Remember, the question is 5y squared plus 20y plus 3y plus 12. So step 1 says rearrange the terms into pairs that can factorize if needed. And in this case, when we look at the first 2 terms, it can be factorized, and the third and fourth terms can be factorized, so therefore it is not needed. So we move on to step 2. Substitute the terms into the rectangles. And as before, we will require 4 rectangles since we have 4 terms. So for the first rectangle, remember area is equal to length times breadth. So the first rectangle is 5y squared. So that will be 5y times y. And for the second rectangle, 20y, we know that one side is 5y, so the other side must be 4. And for the third rectangle, which is 3y, we know the top is y, so therefore the left-hand side is 3. And of course, for the fourth rectangle, we already have the length and the breadth. 3 times 4, it is 12. So overall, for these 4 rectangles, the length and breadth is y plus 4 by 5y plus 3. For our final example, we will use the area method here. So let's completely factorize 3x squared plus 1x plus 6x plus 2. So step 1 says to rearrange the terms into pairs that can be factorized, if needed. And our first 2 terms, we can see they can be factorized. So we just continue with step 2. And remember, we have to substitute the terms into the rectangles. And how many terms do we have? 4 terms, which means we require 4 rectangles. So for the first rectangle, the area is 3x squared. Now let's recall that the area of a rectangle is length times breadth. So that means 3x times x will give us 3x squared. And for plus 1x, we already have the left-hand side as x. So the other side will be 1. And for the third rectangle, we know the top is 3x and we need to get an area of 6x. So therefore the left-hand side is 2. Length times breadth, 2 times 3x is 6x. And finally, we already have 2 on the length and 1 on the width, and 2 ones are 2, which is the fourth rectangle. Therefore, by completely factorizing these 4 terms, we end up with the product 3x plus 1 by x plus 2. We now have an exercise to factorize these following questions with 4 terms in it. Remember to use step 1 to rearrange if it's necessary, and then step 2 to factorize each pair. The last 3 questions are quadratic expressions. Please stop your video now and attempt all these questions. Then restart the video and go on to the next slide where the solutions are presented. Let's recall that when we are factorizing 4 terms, we will factorize them in pairs, and we will reach a line in which both pairs, when they were factorized, ended up with the same brackets. If the brackets are not the same, then we would have made a mistake. And then we complete the solution with our final line. In the last 3 questions there, especially the last one, we would end up with the answer 4d minus 1 times 4d minus 1. And this can be written as 4d minus 1 in brackets squared. Let's look at a greater detail at example 2. 5y squared plus 20y plus 3y plus 12, and we were able to factorize that. The second and third terms can be added, and we will get 5y squared plus 23y plus 12. This is a quadratic expression with 3 terms. Similarly with example 3, 3x squared plus 1x plus 6x plus 2, we can add the middle terms and get 3x squared plus 7x plus 2, which is also a quadratic expression with 3 terms. This skill of moving from 3 to 4 terms, or vice versa, will be dealt with in the next video in more detail. Thank you for joining us with our part 2 video, and feel free to hit the link and go on to the third part of the series, where we will be exploring the factorizing of 3 terms in quadratic expressions. Don't forget to add in the comments if you need any help in any particular topic, so we can create a video for you. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye.